And now we move to the bad teams of the Eastern Conference. Here we are with the 7 teams from the Eastern Conference I think will be sitting home come playoff time. We start off with, in my opinion, the worst team in the East, the New York Knicks. I see them trading David Lee mid-season, trying to get something for him before he bolts for wherever that may be. But I don't think he's playing the full season in New York. And once he leaves, I don't know what they have. The Nate Robinson thing is fun, but ultimately he's a tiny point guard who's not a very good passer. You can only go so far with that. And they have a bunch of other random assorted pieces, and there might be some talent here and there, but ultimately, I don't see the New York thing going very well. And really, it's a bleak future looking ahead for them. So I'll just leave it at that and say I see about 21 wins for the Knicks. Coming in a very close second would be the Charlotte Bobcats, I say, with 22 wins. They've got close to half their cap wrapped up around role players like Vladimir Radmanovich and Raja Bell and Tyson Chandler. Players who are good, but are getting paid 2 to 3 to maybe 4 times more than they really deserve. I like a lot of their players. I like Boris Diaw. I like DJ Augustine. I even kind of like Desanga Job, or however you pronounce his name. But it's just a poorly put together team that really doesn't look like they know what they're doing. So 22 wins sounds about good to me, and they really need to find a way to blow this thing up and just completely start over with a GM who cares. Now, I have no problem with the New Jersey Nets' decision to trade Vince Carter. It was time. And they got some okay picks and pieces. But in the short term, it's going to be bad. They still have Devin Harris, who's a quality player. They have Brook Lopez, who I think is going to have a real nice year this year as a sophomore. But there's just not enough talent to go around. I think they're poorly coached. And I'm going to go with 26 wins for the New Jersey Nets. It's a shame because I do kind of like this team, but at the end of the day, the talent just stops a little too soon. I couldn't tell you what they have going for them behind Harris and Lopez. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks are really an uninteresting team. They just got very little going for them. They lost Charlie V, and they just don't have a lot you can say about them, but they still have Michael Redd, who quietly should have a really good year this season, I think. Andrew Bogut is turning into a double-double type of center, which is actually kind of rare in this league. And, I don't think they're as bad as the 3 other teams I mentioned. I'm going to say 28 wins for the Milwaukee Bucks, which is obviously bad, but in between guys like Michael Redd and Andrew Bogut, I think they can piece together close to 30. I'm going to say, again, 28. I don't know where Chris Bosh is going to be come later this season, but I don't see how it's in Toronto. I think it's time that Toronto makes a panic trade, getting 60 cents on the dollar for Chris Bosh. And even if they do keep him, it might not be that much better. I'm going to say 32 wins for the Toronto Raptors. The Hedo Turkoglu signing, I don't like it. I think it ends poorly. Bargiani, not much going on there. Jose Calderon, going to be what he always is, a pretty quality point guard that, maybe he's not very tough, but he's a very good shooter, quality guy, but at the end of the day, they're just missing that dominant franchise player, and I think they'll definitely be missing him after this season, after they've traded Chris Bosh before the deadline. To who, I don't know, but I don't see how he stays in Toronto. I kind of like this Pacers team to make a little bit of an improvement over last year. I'm going to say they win 38, 39 games and come kind of sort of close to the postseason, but it won't be quite enough. Now, I like Danny Granger. I think he's very close to being a franchise player. He can do a little bit of everything. He passes well, he can rebound, he can shoot from all around. Brings a lot of things to the table. Troy Murphy's one of my favorite players in the league. Excellent rebounder and three-point shooter. So those two things alone, I think, are going to be worth quite a bit this year. If they get good, healthy seasons out of those two guys, you know, I'm just saying, watch out. But other than that, there's really not a ton to say here. So at the end of the day, I got to scale things back a little bit. No playoffs for them, but they'll be kind of sort of close. Again, I'm going to say about 38, 39 wins. Let's go with 39. I had a really difficult time picking which playoff team from last year would miss the playoffs. I had Detroit, Chicago, or Philly. I think I'm going to go with Detroit. And I know out of all those three teams, Detroit probably cares the most out of trying to develop a good playoff team, but that team is a mess. That team is, wow. I mean, I know they're spending money. I know they went out and got players. I know their GM is talking about what a big genius he is, but um, I don't see how what they did this offseason is being good. I don't like Rodney Stuckey. He's not a true point guard, and he can't play defense. I don't. They have Richard Hamilton and Ben Gordon, which is kind of redundant, and they really shouldn't have extended Richard Hamilton at all. They still have Tayshaun Prince, who's one of my favorite players in the league. I think that'll work out. But Charlie V, he's not an all-star type player, and they're paying him all that money. And the center position, Kwame Brown and Ben Wallace, I don't know what this team is going to do, but I think they're going to be pretty bad this year. I'm going to say 40 wins, and they will miss the playoffs. I think last year was a sign of things to come. This team, I have no idea what they're going to do, but they spent a lot of money this offseason, and I don't see it paying off. And those are your non-playoff Eastern teams.